this. All right, can everybody hear me? That didn't work out so good now, did it? Story of my life. Yeah. Powered by the dew. How echoey is this? Probably sounds like shit.
Sounds good, everyone's saying.
Sounds better in this echo chamber. I don't know what happened. I had the cordless mics and lapel mics. I think we might have some issues from last week in Foley hooking up all of our other microphones. But anyway, how many people we got on there?
36.
What's that?
36.
All right, so what this bow build here is going to kind of be about, as you can see, all of this is the Buckskin Prevail. I'm starting off with the number 6 grip on this bow because that's pretty much what I'm running on the other Prevail, and it's worked so far. If you don't know how to swap out the grip on your Hoyt bow, check your owner's manual and then go punch yourself in the throat. I already threw on the rest. I already threw on my gripper stuff. So pretty much not what this bow build is going to be about. So what I'm going to do here is this is literally what I do every time I get a new bow. I will tear the bow down to the very, very base. I had this bow down to where there was not a single thing on it. So just to save on time, I've already reassembled the top limb pocket because there's no reason for you to watch me do it twice. But what I am going to show you today is you can see the bottom of the riser is bare, nothing on it. So this is kind of the process that I go through. So for those of you that don't necessarily know the ABCs of the bow, this is why I do this. Because if you don't understand how the bow works, you might not understand when something goes wrong, when you look at it, when you feel it, when you look at somebody else's. So obviously we have the Hoyt pocket right here. Each pocket has 2 rockers. This is the rocker pin and the other side of the rocker pin. So one of the things that I will do right away, this is a problem that I've ran into previously, not with Hoyts, is I will check the fit of my rocker pin, because any deviation in the rocker pin or the way that the pocket fits on the riser can cause excessive movement out of the limb tips. So this rocker pin fits in here snug. There is literally no movement. So I'm not going to need to do anything in the past. I've had to have, not with Hoyts, but I've had to have custom rocker pins made to take up the variances going through the riser itself. So one of the other things that Hoyt did this year is what we will call the cups that are on the limb bolt. They're a lot smaller this year. Previously, these were pretty big, and if you got after it pretty hardcore, the little cup on that bolt fits right inside the top part there, seats down in there very, very nicely. The last few years, they were using a much larger plastic one, and under certain conditions, like me trying to tighten down my limb bolts, you were able to crush that and actually cause some issues there. So this is a very, very good fix by Hoyt. Obviously, this is the pin that goes into the riser that the limb bolt actually goes into. So the first thing that I will do here, obviously, is I'll put the rockers on, and I will make sure that the rockers aren't too loose. Make sure that everything lines up well on that side. Keep in mind that when you're putting these back together, when you go to put your limbs in, you need to make sure that these are not rotated over. The flat spot of the rocker pin always goes on the bottom of the limb. So Hoyt does have a pretty secure system here. Each end of the limb pocket goes on each side of the rocker pins themselves. One of the things that I do really like about these Hoyt pockets is on the riser there's a very, very hard plastic sleeve that goes right here. This pocket, this metal part of the pocket goes over that very, very tight. So I will push that down on there, get that rocked down. At this point, you have to make sure to line up the end of your pocket with the rocker themselves. I will then insert the pin. Sometimes it does need a little bit of love. So for that, doesn't take a whole lot. So at this point, there's another small bolt that goes on the other side. I will put this in, but not tighten this down all the way. And the reason that I won't do that is because once you tighten that down with the limbs in here, this pocket absolutely goes nowhere. And that becomes, I mean, obviously that's critical for a lot of reasons, but one of the things that we will be doing is something that I've talked about a lot, and that is measuring the limb split out of the pocket and out of the cam to make sure that your spacing is proper. So now what I'll do is I'll take the little part that fits inside the riser, I'll drop it, I'll pick it back up again, then I'll put that in there, put the limb bolt through. Now keep in mind when you're tightening this up, there's a little bit of Loctite on this bolt, so I mean I can keep screwing it with my finger if I want, but once I know that it gets started, I'll just put a wrench in there and put her down about the rest of the way. So this is a very, very simple yet incredibly effective pocket system they have on these bows. So once again, keeping in mind that unless you're familiar with all of the different processes of this pocket, you're not necessarily going to know when something is not right. So I'm going to set this to the side right here. The next thing that I do is I pull off, obviously as you can see, I pulled off the cams, pull off the limbs and everything. The reason I do that is twofold. Is I want to be able to, one, inspect my axles to make sure that there's not any undue grooves, wear marks, anything like that. Obviously it's brand new, so I would suspect that there shouldn't be. One of the other reasons is I like to check the bearings on my cams, and a lot of folks, when they check bearings, they will stick the axle all the way through and spin it and go, yeah, feels good. Well, of course it feels good. You've put the axle all the way through the cam, so it's going to feel good. The proper way to test bearings is to put in just the tip. Insert joke there, but you put in just the tip into one of the bearings, apply a little bit of sideways pressure, and spin. Not all the way through, just the tip. And then you're literally pushing just a little bit and then rolling it in your fingers. And if you feel any large bumps or if you feel that bearing hanging up, then obviously you know you have an issue there. I will then flip the cam around. Once again, stick in just the tip, put a little side pressure, smooth as silk. So, you know, these bearings are some of the better bearings in the industry. But nobody's perfect. So I always check these just because. I don't find very many bad bearings on brand new bows. I find tons of bad bearings on older bows. And the reason for that is not what you might think. Inside these bearings, there's obviously grease and oil. And so when you shoot in extreme heat, or when you leave your bow in your car when it's hot, that grease and oil inside those bearings actually comes out, and the bearing is now dry. So when that happens, you have to be able to service that bearing in one way or another, or eventually, not very long, you're actually going to wear that bearing out. So that's why I like to check these right off the bat, and so that's the process there. At this point, I will take my bottom set here. I have verified that the bearings are good, so I will start assembling this bottom limb cam system. And the reason that I do this off the bow is, if you've ever tried to put an axle through a split limb bow in the last chance easy press when you don't have your fingers quite right, you'll pretty much want to shoot yourself in the face. So it's much easier to assemble this when it's not on the bow. Put this together like that. And believe it or not, this is actually the top, not the bottom, of course. So then we will so this is going to be actually our top, and this is now ready to install on the bow. One thing that I always recommend, I've done this, so ain't no shame in my game. I've put these cams on backwards, like flipped it around like this. So I will always hold the limb and the cam up like this, knowing which side the cables need to come up on. So this one is built properly. One of the other things that I do right off the bat, being a right-handed shooter, is I'll flip around this outside, or from the back side of the bow, the left, I will flip around this outside yoke hanger so that the groove is actually closer to the bow. And the reason that I do that is because for a right-handed shooter, I generally will always need to have more twist in the right yoke. So by doing this, it automatically gives this right side more leverage, which requires me to have a few less twists on that side of the yoke. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab this bad boy here. Once again, I did not tighten up the other rocker pin lockdown here. So that will allow me to insert limbs like so. And once again, make sure that the bottom of the rockers, the flat part, is against the limb. Because if that's rocked over, you're gonna end up with some pretty horrific cam lean on top, and you're gonna be wondering what happened. I'll then just put a wrench in the bottom like this. Tighten that up. And now this top limb pocket, limb assembly, the whole 9 yards is now ready to go. I've tightened down the rocker pin assembly, and this now cannot go anywhere. So I can now work on the bow on the other end without worrying about this flopping around. Now, if this rocker pin comes loose, that's one of the top causes of noise. Like sometimes when people come to full draw, you'll hear kind of a squeak. More times than not, that's actually this rocker pin has come loose. So I'm gonna spin this over here, and I'm gonna get started on the bottom cam. So when it comes to setting these up from the get-go, I'm new to this X3 cam. This is the first time I've ever built one of these, so I'm just leaving the factory spacing, the Hoyt factory spacing for the cams. I'm just leaving it the way it came. Once I get this built up, then we can kind of determine what sort of cam shimming and all of that I need, because there really is no magic fix. You know, nobody really knows where it needs to be. So once again, take my bottom cam, take my axle, put in just the tip, give it a little side pressure, rolls smooth. Roll it over, just the tip, little side pressure, nice and smooth. So obviously, as you would expect, these brand new Hoyt cams bearings are absolutely perfect. So that totally makes sense. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put this bottom system together. One other thing that I will do is, as I put these in here, I'll give them a little twist with my fingers to make sure that my fault, your fault, no one's fault, that the hole in the limb is not wallowed out for any reason. As many of these as they make, I mean, I haven't seen one for a decade, but at some point, somewhere, it's bound to happen. So when I stick my axle through, I'll give it a little turn. Solid. So we're going to put this in here. On the bottom cam on these X3s, I did notice that they are pretty much equal spacing on the bottom cam. The right cam is spaced over, the top cam is spaced over to the left just a little bit from the factory. I have no opinion on that, so it does not really matter to me at all. So we'll get this on here. Also, one other note, my eyes are barely good enough to recognize nowadays, but just remember that there is a top and a bottom to an E-clip. The bottom side of the E-clip is flatter. The top part of the E-clip has kind of a radius going to the inside. So these actually perform better and stay on longer when they are installed properly. I didn't know that for a long time, I'm not gonna lie. So we will get that E-clip on there. Once again, just because, I will hold the bow out. Yep, draw stops on the right side for me, so that's gonna be proper. I've almost gotten to the point where I drew it back the wrong way, but one thing I didn't do on the top that's gonna be awful fun for you guys to watch is installing the limb dampeners in this thing after the limbs are already put together. So generally speaking, when possible, I will do that right now. These new ones are a little bit spidery. So and then as previously mentioned, I have left the rocker pin in here loose so that I can slide those in and get them positioned without any issues there at all. So I will put an Allen wrench in the bottom here. And for the most part, most of the systems out there are going to have a similar design as far as their mechanical function. You know, obviously every company has their own, you know, patented, you know, idea of how they want it to be. So that is basically that part. Now comes an incredibly important part of all of this, and that is measuring the limb split. So basically what I'll do here is right out of the pocket, oh, I was about to freak out. It's on millimeters. I was about to lose it. So I will measure my limb split right out of the pocket, and then I will come out here and measure my limb split here, and I'm about 7/1000ths wider at the cam than out of the pocket, and that is well within my tolerance. The one thing that I don't want on my target bows is I don't want the cams to be pinching. So I don't want it to be closer at the cam than it is out of the pocket as well. Measure this one. All right, we're good. So now that our limb split is good, I'm going to call on all the strength I have in the world here to get this limb vibration mechanism put in place. I actually like these. I like these better than the previous system with the bar on there. So these have proved to be very, very effective over the years, and pretty bulletproof as well. So now that we have those in there, I'll usually just give the cams a little spin. There's no gaps there whatsoever. Everything's good up here. All right, so that right there is basically what I do with a bow as soon as I get it. Every bow. Okay, I take that back. I did not do that with the XXL hunting bow because I didn't have time. But when it comes to target bows, this is exactly what I do every single time. So right now, I'm gonna grab my cable slide and we are going to move over to the bow press, and we're gonna throw some strings and cables on this bad boy. And no, folks, I use the manual last chance press at work. I have the automatic one at home. So, one thing to keep in mind when you're pressing these, for me anyway, is as I go a few turns at a time, I will make sure that my limbs stay seated in the very, very top of the finger. Just because. I've never had one of these fly out, and I don't intend to. These last chance presses have been incredibly good to me, so I don't plan on having any problems with those. I can give you one incredible little piece of, one incredible tip. And that is, if you find yourself having to deal with a Hoyt or any split limb bow in one of the last chance presses, and your fingers aren't quite lined up properly, and you're having a hard time getting your axle through, these things are magic. These are actually D-loop pliers. But these will actually help you in many regards. I use these for two things when it comes to limbs. I'll put them in a towel, and I will actually stick it between the limb, and I'll spread the limbs apart to get little washers or spacers in there, because my fat mitts don't hold tiny little washers all that good. But I will use this to separate the limbs to help me get spacers in there. I will also use this to spread it apart to help me get axles through the other side of the split limb. So that is one thing that I found those to be pretty handy for. Let's go ahead and get this thing's getting a good bit of tension on it now. Mad props to that pop you just heard was the rocker's seating, so fear not. All right, so now I'm going to bust out my fancy schmancy Scott Parrish first string magnums that he actually sent me months ago when I got the other bow. I just wanted to make sure that I had them. So we're going to go ahead and throw these strings on right quick. Any questions out there, babe?
Lucy needs more time in front of the camera.
Lucy does?
What kind of oil do you recommend for the bearings?
When it comes to actually servicing the bearings themselves, I like to use, I just like to use white lithium, but you can use whatever you think will work for your particular application. But I don't, because I service mine, well, they didn't leave me a whole lot of room on that peg. Because I service mine pretty regularly, I just use white lith. Works good for me. Never had a problem with it at all.
How tight do you tighten your rocker pins?
Not tight enough to strip them out, but I don't want them coming loose.
What color strings are you putting on your bow?
This string is the first string Magnum material, and it only comes in this particular color, which is, I don't even know if there's a name for this.
Minty green.
Yeah. So I don't really know what the actual color, what the name is on this, but it is definitely.
Why isn't it orange?
Is that Evan?
No, Will Rutland.
I don't know, because that's what Scott decided to do on the. This is the natural color of this given material. It's just a matter of there is no dye. And when it came to the other strings that I've used over the years, I actually have always used a natural material, just because I don't want the dyes in there affecting any additional movement. So that is something that I've been doing for a long time. I can't take credit for that. That's Dave Cousins. It had to be 15 years ago or so that Dave Cousins actually mentioned that. So Dave has had many contributions to archery besides winning, and he is a very, very smart dude when it comes to his bows. So I'm pretty excited to try out this cam, because this cam is actually, and I don't know exactly how close, because one, I'm not an engineer, and two, I wasn't shooting Hoyt back in the day, but this cam is actually some sort of a relative of the old C2 cam. Not sure how much command cam there is in there, but it is definitely got some of that family in it.
You want to talk about your shirt?
I'm sorry? Oh, my shirt? Veterans Before Refugees. Mic drop. All the snowflakes can go suck it. This shirt is from Grunt Style. It's a veteran-owned and operated clothing company. Found them on the interweb, and have been very, very pleased with their customer service and their designs. The snowflake shirt that I posted yesterday is actually from them as well. And so support some local vets and go buy some shirts on Grunt Style. All right, so one of the other things that I do anytime I put strings on or do anything is count to 7. And the reason I count to 7 is there's 1, 2, 3 loops on the bottom, and 1, 2, 3, 4 loops on top. So if I can't count to 7, that means I have a loop that might not be on there, and that would be bad. So that is going to be.
Everybody wants you to oil your press.
Don't judge me. All right, so my timing's off here a little bit. Before I, it's not squeaky. What are you talking about? I think what you're hearing is the whole super tall. Oh, it's the spinning black thing on here. That's me, folks. So my timing was off a little bit. So what I'm going to do is put some. Of course, I'm blind, so. Let's go put a few forward twists in there. So yeah, the shirts are from Grunt Style, so be sure to head over there and let them know. I'm not liking the way that, I think I might have more of a natural cross going on here than previously. So I'm gonna spin this around and give that a go the other way. Yes, sir. Okay, so at this point, I will only get my timing close. And the reason for that is this, is we will be...
Shane Mills wants to know if that's the press or your joints.
Both. That's both, Shane. You know, Shane, if you were to give me some of that bald balm that you use to keep you and Derek Phillips' heads so shiny, I could probably put a little something on there. So anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab an X10 and I'm just going to check preliminary cam lean. So top cam, I'm sorry, bottom cam is magnificent. Can you guys see that all right? So the bottom cam turned out lovely. Which is what I want, because the bottom cam is really the driving cam of the entire system. Top cam is directly related to the bottom cam lean. So whatever your top cam lean is, it's not segregated. The bottom cam determines so much of that. Oh, hey, look at that. So I am going to need to put some serious twists into this to at least get this over, because I'm going to want to start with this about right here. So I'm going to go ahead and press this and add some twist to that side. Any other questions?
No.
How many people we got watching?
72.
Whoop, whoop. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, first thing, one of these has more twists in it than the other. So looking at that amount of cam lean, I am probably going to go two out of the left, and I'll probably go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the right. Now my timing was still off a good bit, so I will.
What spine X10 are you shooting?
I am shooting the 325 X10 with 4 inches cut off the back, with a $120 up front. I have not I've not gotten any of the new points. I think they made 140 or 150, I'm not exactly sure, but oh.
Yes, Chris, we will be at Indoor National.
Chris who?
Bowman.
Chris Bowman, yes. Oh yeah. Indoor Nationals for show. We're going to be at the ASA in the next one. I don't even know where it's at. I got plane tickets bought, but I have no idea. All right. That's a little too much. So I put a little too much cam lean in there, just going off of what the bottom cam tells me. One thing that does confuse a lot of folks is when the top cam or when the bottom cam is going one way, a lot of people will make the top cam go the same direction. I'll show you in a minute, but actually when you think about it, that's a little counterintuitive. Simply because, let's take a gander here. All right, so that top cam lean right there, that's where I'm going to start. There is no set location, there is no predetermined cam lean at all. But basically what I do is I just look at the bottom cam. So let's say for instance, and this is for the most part unless you have some incredible hand torque, but if the bottom cam, let's say for instance the bottom cam was leaning like this, the top cam would have to go the other direction to accomplish a relative tune unless you wanted to be throwing a curveball. So for me, my bottom cam here, my cam lean is amazing, absolutely gorgeous. So apparently Hoyt hit the nail on the head when they just put the same size spacer on the bottom. So now that I'm on the top, that right there is where my cam lean is going to start. And so what I'll do at this point, cam timing's pretty darn close. The first thing that I usually do when I'm done with this process, of course, is I will throw a sight and all that kind of stuff on it, and then I will usually tune. I haven't really had a good paper tuner for a long time. I used to use a Staples cork board and just cut out the middle, but now thanks to my man at United Bow Stands, I actually got a pretty sick paper tuner. So my next video about this bow is just going to basically be wow.
What's the difference in positive cam lean and negative cam lean?
Thing's got a better wall on it than I was expecting. Well, if you're talking about positive as far as going one way and negative as far as going the other, you know, it's really just a matter of what your system is wanting. I have parameters for the bottom cam lean as far as how much is acceptable to me. And that's just really for me as a matter of setting how the cam tracks. One of the things I'll do in the next live feed for this bow is I'll actually put a laser on it at brace height, and then I'll bring it to full draw in my last chance draw board. Then I'll put a laser on it again, because what I'm looking for is I want that cam to track as good as possible. I don't want it to be like this at brace height and then coming straight at full draw or going past. I want it to be straight as possible. So what I will do is I will work to make sure that my cam has a certain orientation at brace height that's acceptable to me, but then as I come to draw, that it tracks fairly straight. That's going to mitigate left and right knock travel, and there really is no right answer for everyone. My boy Shane Wills, who's on this live feed right now, Shane's one of the best shooters I've ever seen, and he puts a little bit more hand into the bow than I do, or that several other people that I know do. But that is, you know, that's just his form, and that works for him. Well, Shane's bare shaft tune and Shane's cam lean for his shooting form, it is, you know, that's for Shane. For me, it might be totally different. I you know, that's just not something that I've tested. But this is pretty much the process that I go through just to get started. I've set my my AAE Freak Show with a 10,000ths Freak launcher blade on there. Set it at about, I don't know, 36, 39 degrees. I haven't really technically measured it with a device, but so far I'm not gonna lie, I'm shocked. I'm really surprised at how good the wall is on this bow. I was not expecting that.
Are you planning to do an arrow build video?
I can do an arrow build video, yes. Depending on what kind of arrows you're shooting. For me, my process is pretty much the same. I'm currently shooting Easton. I'm not shooting any all carbon arrows. My all carbon arrow building process is way different than what I use now. For the X10s, really for me, it's just a matter of, you know, cutting what I need to off the back, trimming them up. But I do spin test and mark all the components. A pin knock adapter bushing that might not be good in one shaft is perfect in another, but I do put all those together and I do spin all of them, mark them. I use the Ram arrow spine checker, and basically just go through that entire process. So I could certainly do one of those builds. As far as aluminum goes, 2712s for the most part are straight as you can get anyway, so really not much involved for me there. If you are someone that shoots an all carbon arrow, whether it's a Easton, a gold tip, a Black Eagle, a Carbon Express, I don't care what it is. That process is going to be a little bit different. For those of you that remember back when I was shooting gold tips, I had the labels on the end of some. Tim Gillingham, who's obviously still there, you know, does the same. And the reason for that is we want to shoot the best part of the arrow we can. Conversely, you also want the knock to be in the straightest end of the arrow because that's the propelling end. So that's an important factor as well. So I haven't even mounted a sight on this bow yet or put a peep in, but like I said, if you and I know some people got the red ass with me, but seriously, folks, if you came to watch my bow build to learn how to tie on a D-loop or attach a sight to your bow, I mean, PM me, I'll make you a private video about it, but that's not really, you know, the kind of, there's lots of good folks out there that can show you all that stuff. If John Dudley is a good friend of mine, his stuff is incredibly informative. George Riles has some video out there for tying on the torqueless D-loop. So what's up, babe?
Nothing.
Kathy's laughing back there. I thought there was a...
Jacob Marlowe joined and someone's all hashtag Suave.
Suave is in his house. I'm super proud of Jacob. He's been killing it. So...
Is this bow for ASA?
No, sir. The only thing that I shoot at the ASA... Who did?
Your mother.
Hi, Mom. The only thing that I shoot at the ASA is my iPhone. I run a microphone at the ASAs. I don't shoot my bow at the ASAs simply because, you know, and look, a lot of folks kind of have a hard time. I've been doing this a long time and I've been shooting competitively a long time. I'm not out there, you know, whooping ass like Jacob Marlowe or any of that kind of stuff. But at this stage of my career, I still love to shoot. But right now, I'm focusing on the bigger picture. You know, I had a great time in Vegas, shot well enough anyway to make it through the first 2 days, and then I shankopotamus. But no, I mean, at this stage, I will be shooting, you know, Vegas Indoor Nationals, Dakota Classic, Reading Outdoor Nationals, a FIDA if I have to. It's not that I wouldn't like to shoot the ASAs, but there's two things. One, I got the bow junkie thing to do, and that's a bigger picture. You know, I just got to take one for the team there. And the other one is I'm blind. Not legally yet, but I can't be far away. So when I look at a Vegas target, it's always fresh paper to me. So seeing what Jacob and Jesse and Levi and all them guys do on something without a dot, I got no chance whatsoever. And so I'm gonna stick to the bow junkie thing and keep rolling it. I am setting this bow up for outdoors though. I'm gonna leave the orange bomber over there set up for indoors. And I will get this rolling and tuned up. I will be doing another live feed for this bow probably next week, just kind of showing some of the tuning process, talking about stabilization. I suspect that there are going to be some variance there because of this cam, although having felt it now, I'm pretty impressed. It has a better wall than the for me, don't judge me, don't call up Evan Williams saying Greg Poole said so. For me, at 32 inches in draw length, this bow has a better wall on it than the SVX on the inner peg. But I haven't adjusted any tiller on this bow. I haven't fine-tuned my timing. The draw length's close. I'm not gonna lie. The draw length is pretty close. So, but on the back end, it's should I pull a Tim Gillingham right quick?
No.
Blap!
Everybody said not to do that. Shane wants to know what type of loop will you be running?
I'm just going to be running a standard loop with my adjustable. It's not actually mine. I stole it from Jake Kaminsky. Love you, Jake. I'll actually be shooting Jake's adjustable knock set on the bottom, and I'll just be shooting a regular D loop over and under with only a knock set on the bottom. But I will, the D loop material that I use is the BCY 23 Spectra. It's a little smaller diameter, and that stuff lasts forever. I mean, that stuff is just incredibly, incredibly tough. So that is the D loop that I'll be running. I will be running, of course, the TrueBall Excel Achieve, Carbon Achieve. Speaking of, if Brandon Reyes is on here, I need to text Brandon Reyes. Do they make a buckskin sight? If they do, that might need to happen. Or black. I know they make black, but you know, other than that, I will be also running the new 25 millimeter Achieve scope housing. I put that on my indoor bow, and it actually allowed me to go to a smaller peep, and I love it. But one of the things that I am going to do, because I've gotten Googles of questions about it, is the difference between the X3 and the SVX for speed, for holding weight, for the draw force curve. Once I get this bow kind of dialed in on the next live feed, the Orange Bomber's right over there, and I will, the poundage is going to be pretty much the same, so is the draw length. I will shoot both bows through a chronograph with the same arrow, and we'll see what the speed comes out at. I will check holding weight. Execution weight's kind of a different thing. That's something that I've explained to some folks before is, you know, basically we have three weights. We have draw weight, holding weight, and execution weight. Draw weight is obviously what the max weight of the bow is. Holding weight is what it takes to shoot, you know, to keep the bow at full draw. But execution weight is where each individual archer actually executes their shot. For instance, Chance Bobeth, one of the best shots out there. I wouldn't imagine his execution weight is more than half a pound to a pound more than his holding weight, if that. Chance comes back and sits, just chills right there and waits for the shot to go off. Works pretty damn good for him. You have other people like Roger Willett, Chris Schaff, you know, Stefan Hansen. You have some other people that are actually pulling pretty good on the bow. So their execution weight, it could be 5-6 pounds over their holding weight. So that's a little bit different for everybody. But once I get this thing dialed as far as draw length and everything goes, I will do some comparison testings for speed, not mass weight, draw weight versus holding weight. This bow feels, not confirmed, feels like the holding weight might be just a skosh more than the SVX on the inner peg. But it also feels like the poundage might be a little bit higher. So I'm not as big and strong as Suave Marlowe, so I'm not sure if I can rock the 62 pounds or whatever it was he was shooting out there. But by the way, great job last weekend, Jacob. That was badass. Looked like you were enjoying your nap on the way home. In regard to the cable guard system here, I have the cable rod. I have this adjusted into the first, is almost as far as we go. I have one more notch to go. The reason that I do that, and I may have to adjust it back out, is I can't handle my cables being in my scope. I can't do it. Freaks me out. I can't do it. So what I do is once I get my scope on, I get my center shot on, center shot, 13/16 is where I set it, and I virtually never move it unless I'm doing any line tuning. But I will, I will basically set up the sight, get a relative tune, just so I know that my scope housing is not going to be moving a tremendous amount. And then I will adjust this cable rod system to where the cables are just on the edge of the round part. I don't mind if they take up a little bit of the white circle, but I just can't handle them actually being in the lens part themselves. Maybe I'm just a chicken, or maybe I'm scared, I don't know, but I can't handle that. So the last thing that I'm gonna do with this bow for tonight, which is something that I do with every bow with new strings that I put together. And this is just my own method. You can you can do it however you would like. That's where that bow is going to sit. I will leave this bow right here like this all night. The reason I do that is, many years ago, we would wait till it was 72 degrees outside and put them in our car, or we would, pre-stretch them on the jig when we were making them and all that kind of stuff. And I just kind of learned that, number one, right now, this string has like 16 pounds on it. There's virtually no poundage on the string whatsoever. The bus, not very much. The control, not very much. The bus cable, however, holy cow, Lucy is ghetto blasting us in here. The bus cable, however, has probably about 450 pounds of tension on it right now. So virtually all the movement that I ever see out of these is on the bus cable. So I will actually leave this rig just like this until tomorrow morning. I'll come in tomorrow, and I've been doing this for many years, and there is only a couple strings and string manufacturers and material that I've ever had perform the way that I would really like. When Jesse Broadwater was making strings, his strings were absolutely top notch. Since going over to First Strings and this Magnum material, I've never seen anything like it. I don't know exactly what the material specifications are of the Magnum, other than you can't put any color in it. But I will come in tomorrow, and my timing is dead nuts. Back in the day, like 4 or 5 years ago, I would come in and I would have to put 2 twists into my bus cable, because my top cam, as your bus cable stretches or expands, your top cam will come off. And so I would come in the next morning and sometimes have to put 2 twists in there to get the timing back where it was, just because that cable sitting with that 450 pounds on it overnight expanded. With First Strings Magnum material and whatever process he uses, I don't know if he's got Oompa Loompas down there or whatever, it is Texas, it's probably legal. I would come in tomorrow, and I would venture, if history is any indication, I'm going to have to put a half a twist or none into this bus cable to get the timing back where it was. So I have been extremely impressed. By the way, Scott doesn't pay me. Scott's just a friend, and I shoot his product because I truly believe in it. So these strings are absolutely incredible. One of the things that I will look at right now is I will look at my full draw cam position. My bottom cam is absolutely money. It's right in the middle of the draw peg. The top cam has just a little bit of the left lean, like it did at brace. So as far as I'm concerned, this bow came together exactly the way it needed to be. There was no surprises, all the bearings were good, spacing was good. There was no anomalies on the limb pockets, which is something that I really look at hard. You know, if I have to put, you know, some shim stock inside the rocker to make sure that there's no movement there, I'll do it. I've done it lots of times. This bow, my orange bomber, I haven't had to do any of that too. So mad props to Zach and Brian and the boys over at Hoyt. Great job. So, you know, other than that, that's pretty much going to be it. Any questions right quick?
You're gonna line tune this bow?
Most definitely.
Are you gonna video it?
Who's asking? Yes, I will. I'm just kidding.
Eric Hamilton.
Yes, Eric. I will be line tuning. I've probably got more messages about that than anything. So yes, I will be line tuning it. The weather here in Prescott Valley, Arizona, and the fact I've not been home for over a month has kind of precluded me from doing any of that. But that is one of the reasons that I am building this bow up with the X10s, is so I can see what it does at distance and so I can line tune it. So yes, I will be doing a line tuning live feed. One of the things to keep in mind about that is I do it at 100 yards. So one, the reception at my house sucks balls, so not really going to be able to do it at home, but I will be doing a live feed with targets and examples to actually show you exactly what that process is. For me, Jesse Broadwater, he does it as well. I don't walk back tune, I don't French, I don't do any of that stuff. I don't do none of it. Once my bow is properly line tuned, I never have a center shot problem. I never have a grouping problem. Line tuning takes care of all of that. I don't have to do any of that walk back stuff, none of it. One of the other things that we do is, the first thing I'll do with this bow is I will bear shaft tune it to where the bear shaft is around the other arrow. Not really too necessarily worried about it. That's not the end all be all. Like I've explained in some of the other live feeds I've done, bear shaft tuning is micro tuning. Paper tuning is macro. It's much larger. So the bear shaft for me is only a reference, and by that I mean once I get the bear shaft close, I'll go outside and I'll line tune it. Now you don't necessarily have to line tune it 100. It's whatever your comfortable distance is. Obviously, 100 yards works for me. I got it in my house. We're good. Jesse Broadwater probably line tunes at like 250 or whatever because that's his comfortable distance. Races his Dodge down there to pull arrows. But once I line tune and everything is working, I will then go back and I will shoot my bear shaft again. Not because I care where it is, but because I want to know where it is. And the reason for that is my fault, your fault, no one's fault. If I'm going to shoot somewhere and I fall down or I think my bow's not shooting the way it was, I can pull out my bear shaft and shoot it. And it's never in the middle, I can tell you that. But if I shoot that bear shaft and it's not where it was when I got done line tuning, then that tells me my tune has changed. So after I line tune, I just shoot my bear shaft again as a reference. And I'll take a picture of it, put it in my phone, I'll write it in my journal. Right now, for me, my bear shaft is probably about an inch low right of my fletch shaft at 20 to 25 yards. That for me is where I've shot the best groups I've ever shot. It's super forgiving, and so that for me is just kind of where it's at. That's not to say that if you run your bear shaft straight down the middle and tube your other arrow in the X, that's not good too. Obviously that's fine, but I shoot mine in. So I don't rely on a bear shaft tune as my overall tune. I use that as a start to get close. Then I go outside and line tune, and after that, that allows me to go back to the bare shaft and see where it needs to be.
Some pros say shimming the bottom cam isn't necessary. Is it more a preference, OCD thing for you, knowing that it is all okay? Also, some say you don't need to paper tune a bullet hole. Just dial it.
Yeah, you don't have to paper tune a bullet hole at all. Paper tuning is macro tuning. It's not even micro. Like I said, you can have a bullet hole. Number one, where are you shooting the bullet hole? Because if you're not shooting the bullet hole through paper at 7 yards, whatever, 7 yards is where it tears the worst. But I can have a bullet hole through paper and a bare shaft that's that far away, and I can move my bare shaft to the middle, go back to paper, and still have a bullet hole. So once you have a bullet hole, there's a bunch of wiggle room there before you don't anymore. And that's what I'm talking about the tune, is use it as a reference, but then you need to go shoot it in. As far as the bottom cam goes, you can believe whatever you like, and there's all kinds of thoughts out there on it. But for me, I just know, mechanically speaking, that the bottom cam is the driving force of the entire system. I can only shim it once, I can only adjust it once, and so everything else in the entire system works off of that bottom cam's alignment. So I want the bottom cam to have an acceptable alignment for me, because then that will allow me to have a mechanically aligned top cam, and therefore I don't have to move my rest. I don't move my rest to paper tune or bare shaft tune. I move my yoke. Well, I will move my rest up and down if I need to go up and down. That didn't sound right. But if you have a bottom cam lean that's way out one way and a top cam lean that's way out the other, and you have to move your rest, you are putting a Band-Aid on a problem. And the analogy that I use is if you're driving down the road in your truck and your truck's pulling to the left, you can get out and take air out of the right front tire to make it drive straight. But is it right? And so for me, when I look at this, I look at it as a machine, as a mechanical device. And I want that mechanical device working as good as possible. And so that's why I do this. I mean, how many of you guys have talked to people or had the experience where you're like, I move my rests left and right and it doesn't change my tear and it doesn't change my tune? Right. Do you know why? Because your cams are not mechanically aligned. I'm not talking about timing, I'm talking about alignment. And if your cams are all whacked out, you can move your rest and it doesn't do anything. So that's why that happens. Once you get your cams mechanically aligned properly, or at least close, the smallest adjustment of your rest will have a huge effect. Huge. When I go out to line tune, I have never, once I'm good with my bare shaft, once I'm close, I have never ever had to move my rest more than a half a turn, left or right, to get my line tune to come in. And once that happens, I'm good from 0 to as far back as I want to go shoot. My center shot is always right, I level my sight, do everything, and my center shot is dead perfect. So for me, I want it to be mechanically functioning as good as possible. I'm not the greatest shooter by a long ways. I mean, and I suck now compared to as good as I used to be. So I need every advantage I can get. You know, maybe Jacob Marlowe and David Hauser and Jesse Broadwater and Levi and Chance, and maybe those guys can have a little bit of room for error in there, but I don't think they do. And so those guys are way better shots than I am. And they want all the forgiveness they can because of who they're shooting against. Well, I'm only shooting against myself. And so I want to give myself the greatest opportunity to succeed that I can. And having a bow that is not mechanically aligned, for me, just puts me in a mindset that is not where I want to be.
Would bottom cam lean also cause serving wear issues?
Oh, certainly could. Absolutely. If the bottom cam is leaning too far one way or another, absolutely you're going to get cam lean issues. Excuse me, cam lean issues, duh. Yes, you're going to get serving wear issues, no doubt about it. Depending on the cam, some of the cams have tighter lobes, some of the cams have very, very strong angles. Obviously, as the bus cable comes around the biggest part of the module and the cam over here, there is the opportunity for the outside of the cam where the string track is to actually make contact and wear it from that angle. So absolutely, that is most certainly a potential issue with excessive cameling. So, all right, everybody. Well, that's pretty much going to wrap it up. That was the Buckskin Prevail from Pieces bow build. If you came here, like I said earlier, if you came here expecting to see how to tie in a peep and a D-loop and how to bolt on your rest, I apologize. Hashtag sorry, not sorry. You know, there's lots of great folks out there that'll take care of that. Here, me and my folks, we tend to kind of go on another level. So no disrespect to any of those folks. I love them. But, you know, we just do what we do over here. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Love you guys. And go check out Grunt Style for some sick veterans apparel. Represent the hood. So I'm going to let this thing sit overnight. And I'm going to get stabilizers and all the other crap on it. And then I'll fire up another live feed either this weekend or next week, and we will do some direct comparisons between the SVX and the X3. I will also kind of show you some of the X10 tuning process. Later, everybody.
Later. You're welcome, Paul. Lucy
Paul.
Lou. Come here, Lucy Lou. Everybody wants to see you. There she is. Woo.